Hello everybody, my name is Keon and today we'll take a look at Poloma. She is the best character in Battlerite Royale. She's even so good that I got from Champion League 2 all the way down to Platinum 4. God, this character sucks. Why am I doing this? If you want to skip ahead to a specific part, I will leave the timestamps down below in the description. Please note that this is a Poloma guide for solo queue. If you want to do a guide, let me know, but let's begin with this non-salty guide. Poloma's left mouse button is called Soul Bolt. She fires a Soul Bolt that deals absolutely no damage and inflicts Soul Bind on enemy hit, and it heals 7 health on ally hit. And Soul Bind makes an enemy take 30% of the damage that Poloma takes. The legendary ability is that Soul Bolt has a 20% chance of spawning a pixie that mimics your Soul Bolt, with reduced damage and healing. This can only trigger once every 8 seconds. This is great! If you're playing duos. The pixie can't heal Poloma, so it's just a little more damage in solos. Poloma's right mouse button is called Ghost Wolf, and it is her only useful ability. She sends out a Ghost Wolf that deals 24, 18 and 12 damage and inflicts the Soul Bind and the Fading Snare, and it bounces to nearby enemies up to 3 times. Well, we go over how the bouncing works later, but as you can see, it bounces. The Fading Snare start at 0% and they will gradually regain their movement speed up to 100 during 1 second. The legendary bonus is that a wolf will return to you after finishing bouncing around and heal you for 8 HP. Space Spirit Guide, one of many mobility options. Poloma preacts a Spirit Guide that heals an ally for 12 health or deals 12 damage and knocks an enemy back. It can travel through walls, but not champions, and can be recast within 2.5 seconds to teleport to the spirit. This is an iframe, but it's not an instant one. If you already have your spirit out and you need to recast, it will teleport you instantly, but if you need to cast it and then recast it, you won't be able to dodge something quickly since it's quite a long cast time depending on how far you cast it. The legendary bonus is you can cast Spirit Guide on an ally. They take 25% less damage. If you hit an enemy, they take 24% more damage. This is great! If you're playing duos. While the 25% damage debuff is nice, it only applies until you recast space, which you more than often want to do. Or maybe you need to escape with the space, and in that case, the damage doesn't matter. What I'm trying to say is that it's very good in duos, but pretty meh in solos. Moving on to Poloma's Q, which is called Spirit Rift. As you may notice, her kit is a bit complex, so hang in there. Spirit Rift opens a rift, inflicting spell block to nearby enemies. When spell block interrupts an ability, it causes panic. If an enemy uses any ability, space, the left mouse button, or even ultimate during that 1.5 seconds, they will get panicked. And panic makes the target run away for 2 seconds at 10% reduced movement speed. If they take 20 damage or more, the effects end. The legendary bonus is for one simple and both useful in solos and duos. After casting Spirit Rift, you gain a short speed boost of 40% movement speed for 2 seconds. Here comes another complicated ability. It's called Soul Transfer and is Poloma's E. She sends out a spirit that drains 12 health from enemies and heals 12 health to allies and yourself. You and the other player swaps location on impact. So if you hit this, you will get 12 health back while dealing 12 damage to your opponent. You will also switch places with them, which can be really good, for example, if you're sandwiched in between 2 players. Swap yourself with one and suddenly it's that player who is trapped. The legendary bonus is great if you're playing duos. It makes enemies become rooted for 1.2 seconds, which is good, but depending on the distance you hit your E from, you're not guaranteed to land the right mouse button after the E, and right mouse button is your only source of damage really. Not being able to swap with and heal your allies, it kinda takes away half the ability in a sense. Poloma's R is called Other Side, and it's actually an ability that I like a lot. She goes into the spirit realm, increasing your movement speed by 33% and making you immaterial but unable to use abilities. Use this as an instant iframe. Use it to escape, reposition, chase or dodge abilities. One thing to note is that unlike Arena, you can only use Other Side on yourself and not on allies. This has an amazing legendary ability as well. You're invisible during Other Side. Note that it says invisible and not stealth. That means your opponent won't get the eye depending on how close you are to them. This is super useful to run away or surprise people. Maybe face check a bush, or why not sneak up in melee range and hit them with a spell block. Lastly, the ultimate, Ancestral Spirit. She summons an Ancestral Spirit at target location and becomes immaterial for 0.7 seconds. She deals 18 damage and inflicts snare to enemies and heal allies for 18 health. This effect applies to the inner circle. After 2 seconds, the spirit departs and summons a Ghost Wolf to rush each nearby enemy within the larger circle. The fading snare from this is better than from Ghost Wolf, since it has a duration of 2 seconds instead of 1. Now let's go over in what order you should prioritize getting those legendary abilities. Honestly, all of them are really good, and it might be a key reason as to why her early game is so quite horrible, where her late game is solid. Right mouse button is a must-have for the late game. Wolves is your main source of damage, so you want it on as low cooldown as possible and as high damage as possible. Then there is the heal, which is really important for Poloma. One of the problems with Poloma is that she's a ranged character who wants to get into melee range, so healing is super important to sustain these traits. Next up is R. Being invisible is insanely good. Sneak away, sneak up, endless possibilities, and unlike Jade or Croak stuff, you can't even be hit even if they predict where you are. Then there is Space. This is honestly mostly for the cooldown reduction. While the damage boost is good, as I mentioned earlier, you most often want to reactivate it so you will lose the debuff anyway, but the knockback is really good if they get up too close. E. The root. If your opponent doesn't have an iframe or a counter, you will probably hit your Ghost Wolf. Since it doesn't guarantee a hit, it is just okay honestly. It's good for escaping though. Then we have left mouse button. This is just for damage. The pixie really doesn't make a difference in solo. The extra damage on a hit, well, that's good. And last up is the Q. This is by no means a bad legendary, but it doesn't really give you much except for a little more utility, which you already have a lot of. Okay, here comes the hard part. How to Poloma. There's quite a few concepts that you have to grasp and understand in order to play her efficiently. I will try to go over some basic and give you just an idea of how you can use her. First thing you need to know is how the wolves bounces around. As you can see in this clip, they will always bounce if possible to a new target. So even if the first two are closer to each other, the wolf will always prioritize hitting something that it hasn't damaged yet. If there isn't a third target however, it will bounce back to the first target again. Since the ultimate sends out wolves at the end, they work exactly as your right mouse button, except they won't return to you to heal even if you have the legendary right mouse button. So depending on how many people are still in the outer circle, the ultimate will send out a wolf for each one and they will bounce. As you can see here, the wolves bounce between Rook and Jade, dealing an extreme amount of damage, so imagine how much you could do if there were more people around. Also, don't forget that the ultimate creates a 0.7 iframe, so you can use it to juke something. Here I made a basic flowchart of her combo. There are several variations of this, but this might help you get your creativity started. So first you start off with a space and aim to hit them, or you walk up to them with the R, preferably a legendary R. If you hit your space, you obviously recast it to go into melee range. Then use your Q to panic them. You'll have to anticipate if they're going to use an ability or if they're gonna channel a counter. After you hit your panic, they will run away from you, creating distance again. Follow this up with a guaranteed right mouse button or an E for damage and or heal. Don't forget to wave in auto attacks while waiting for cooldowns. Every time you have downtime, don't just stand there, attack them. Depending if you used your E or right mouse button before, use the other one now and follow up with even more auto attacks. Depending on what you started the combo with, you will either have space or R that you can use to create new distances between you if needed. After completing this quick combo, your space and R should be up again and you should continue to loop this in different variations. Just don't be predictable by doing the same thing over and over again. Now I have two example clips that we're gonna analyze. I do by no means play perfectly, but hopefully it gives you an idea of the mindset I use when playing Poloma. Starting off we have a Jamila coming in. I start off with an E, and since I have a legendary, I know I will get a root on her. Here in this example is what I talked about before. I instantly charge my right mouse button after, but Jamila is still able to land a counter. It could be because she has a circle of resilience, but my point is that you shouldn't bet on landing the right mouse button stupidly, like I did. After triggering the counter, I know she'll want to come up in melee range and attack me. I use my R to become immaterial and wait out the stealth. When I know she's close and wants to attack, I instantly use my spell block. Since I don't have my right mouse button to follow up with, I poke with left mouse as much as I can. After that, I use my space to tag her and quickly follow up with an E. Knowingly, I can't teleport to her no matter where she ends up. Caught by surprise by her ultimate, I start taking way too much damage. While retreating, I trigger a counter, and now I know she will try to get into melee range to attack me again. As soon as the eye turns red, indicating that she's close, I use my spell block in a desperate attempt to escape. Luckily, she's greedy and tries to attack me, so I manage to get away. As a Raigan comes in to distract her, I manage to escape and heal up. I see that someone dies where Jamila was, and I assume it's her. Instead of healing up fully, I charge in, hoping to catch a damaged Raigan still healing up. When I see that he's full health and eager to fight, I do what Poloma does best. I kite. One thing I also note is that he has the ultimate ready, so I'm always gonna need to save something to dodge that. Trying to keep him at the distance with poke, hoping to land something to even out the HP difference, he slowly gets closer. When he is in range to close the gap, I use my space to dodge, but since it's not instant iframe, I take some damage before teleporting away. He charges into melee range, but knowingly he has ultimate, I save my spell block. Instead, I use my E in order to gain some health instead of just left clicking. As soon as I see him channeling his ultimate, I go up and press Q to cancel. Then I use my R to create some distance between us, forcing him to use an iframe in order to catch up while recovering my cooldowns. Once again, he uses his ultimate and I just walk up to him and punish him with Q, following up with my wolf. Now that I'm out of Q, I try to dodge his ultimate with space, but I'm not quick enough. I should have used my R instead. Then, in a last attempt to survive, Raigan charges his E, his knockup, which I dodged by becoming immaterial when casting my ultimate, but at the same time securing both damage and snare on Raigan. Now let's move on to clip 2. Out of nowhere comes a random Shifu. Luckily, I managed to finish my health potion before he can cancel me. Here I can show off the amount of burst Poloma actually can do, especially with her ultimate. After he tries to escape, I tag him with my space and chase after. Important thing to note here is that I instantly use my Q after finishing the space, which obviously is a mistake. When you recast your space, you end up where they were the moment you recast space and not where they are when the teleport finishes. Wait and see if you should use Q or not, unlike me. After that, Alicia quickly catches on, and since I'm low, I'm trying to flee while kiting her. As she stands still, I cast my ultimate, knowing that she had to use either Q, Ice Block, or space in order to avoid the wolf. Luckily, she does neither and just wastes her space. But I do get dangerously low, but watch as I heal up from using my right mouse button and R. Also watch how I use the fact that she can't see me at all during my R, and I use this to reposition to where she isn't aiming, giving me the element of surprise. Then there's the fact that this Alicia can't aim, but it's obviously irrelevant. GTEC only. Now I hope this gave you a short insight on how the mindset should be when playing Poloma. Now let's move on to the equipment, and the prize for the best equipment for Poloma goes to... Sheep Medallion. Since Poloma sucks, and you are guaranteed to die, you might as well try the sheep, right? No, but honestly, I'll rank them all for you, and if you're not familiar with the items, I will put the stats on the screen for you. Taking the number 1 spot is nothing less than a good old amulet. Especially during late game, your ultimate is essential to deal area of effect damage, but also to get an extra iframe. It's one of those ultimate that is never bad to cast. Next up is the Quick Blade. Seeing how Poloma is so focused around kiting and dancing around your opponent, Quick Blade is a natural choice. Movement speed in general is super important on Poloma, and Quick Blade is much better than Boots because of the secondary effects. Also, if you do manage to get the legendary Quick Blade, you're in luck. Poloma is so heavily reliant on her abilities, so having a reset makes it easier to play aggressive. After that, I would say the Ravager. As I mentioned before, Poloma needs healing, so why not boost it a little. The other stat and the legendary bonus is just good, literally no downside. After that there's the Reaper's Edge. Once again, sustain. It will get you very far with Poloma. The reason why I think Ravager is better is because of the health in combination with the bonus health percentage. But this is your second choice in terms of damage items. Then we have Boots. As mentioned, movement speed is important on Poloma, and if you can't find a quick blade, be sure to keep a pair of boots on you. It makes it much easier to escape and kite, and also to maintain a good distance from your opponent. Then we have the two defensive. As I mentioned in my Lucy guide, I think Circlets is just a better version of Breastplate now since the Breastplate is nerfed. The meta is currently very reliant on CC to damage combos. For example, Lucy's E to right mouse button, and this really helps with these kinds of things. But if you can't find a Circlet, Breastplate is also good. Keep in mind that you do get health from both Ravager, Amulet and Boots, so keep that in mind before picking this up over something else. Riding Salve. It's good for roaming early, chasing or escaping, but in the end, you're gonna have to fight and there are better items to get HP. Then we have the new item, the Arcane Eye. If Sheep wasn't the worst, this would probably be it. I just can't see why it's good. HP, sure, but standing still to gain vision? This item is purely designed for players who think this is Farmville or hide and seek. I just don't see why would you get an item like this over something else. And lastly, with a disclaimer, the keyring. It is really good early on and you should pick up any rarity within the first 5 minutes. It really helps you a lot to get started, but after that it's just health, and even the Arcane Eye effect is better than the keyring in a fight, so drop this after it has filled its purpose. Moving on to consumables. There are a lot of those, but there are 3 in particular that I'd like you to take an extra look at. Meteor, Fake Chests and Explosive Barrels. What do these 3 have in common? Hooray, you guessed right. That's correct. All of them can be attacked. Why is this important? Well, they work as a trampoline for your Spirit Wolves. We'll take a look at how they interact. First up we have the Explosive Barrels. This also applies to loot orbs and barrels already placed on the map. If shooting a barrel or an orb, the wolf will bounce to the nearest target, in this case Sirius, and then to another target if possible. Let's say someone is out of my range to finish it off with the right mouse, just hit something between you and them and the wolf will have a longer range since it bounces off the barrel or the orb. After that we have the Fake Chest, and this acts a bit weird. If attacking an orb with the wolf will bounce to the nearby target. However, it will not bounce back to the Fake Chest, nor will it bounce to another Fake Chest. If starting off by hitting a player, it will not bounce to a chest and then back to the player, nor any other Fake Chest. It will however jump to anything that can be damaged like an orb or another champion. Lastly, we have a few weird interactions with the Meteor. As you can see here, I cannot space through since the space will get stuck in the Meteor. I am also not able to switch place with the Meteor or anything except for a player and a training dummy, so E won't work either. However, as you can see, you can use the other side, your R, to travel through the Meteor. Another weird interaction happens when you place Meteor in a bush, that Poloma can enter the Meteor and stay inside. This means that it is possible to space right into a Meteor, unlike normal. Here you can also see how I practically used the Meteor. I placed one down so my wolf would bounce off the Meteor and then back to Rygon, dealing a total of 24 plus 12 damage instead of just the normal 24. The last tip for Meteor is if you have the legendary right mouse button, you can drop it down and then you can cause your right mouse button on it to trigger the heal when the wolves come back. This is really useful when you don't feel like wasting a health potion for 12 HP. Okay, this is complicated. Well, let's just go over the matchups and then we're done. First, we have the favorable matchups, and that is Poloma since Poloma sucks. But since you watched this guide, you suck a little less with Poloma. Then we have even matchup, there are none. And then everyone else will kill you because Poloma suck. Oh, you want a real matchup guide? Fine. But don't say I didn't warn you how bad she is in solo. I would say that these champions you have a slight edge on. There's Croak, Freya, Jade, Jamila, Ashka, Raigon, Rook, Sirius, and Varesh. These are super easy to land a panic on, which starts off your combo game. They all have some kind of channel ability. Jade's ultimate, Jamila's counter, Freya's counter. Well, you see what I mean. Counters are considered channels, so if they use a counter, just walk up to them and press Q and watch as they run in panic. Even matchups, well, standard tips apply. Hit your shit, uke their shit. It comes down to skill, how well you know your opponent, how well you can kite, pressure, utilize your kit. When fighting these characters, I don't feel like you have an inherited disadvantage, unlike the ones in the top tier. Speaking of the top tier, here we have the Naughty 9. Alessia, Blossom, Destiny, Esmo, Thorn, Lucy, Oller, Pearl, and Taya. These all have super high mobility and are made for kiting. They do many of the things that Poloma do, but better. As you can see, with the exception for Thorn, these are all ranged. Ranged characters and Poloma doesn't really go together since you want to be up there in their face while they're trying to hit you. Now, since neither of you wants to be in melee range, this puts Poloma at a disadvantage. If we take away Esmo's right mouse button, Destiny's and Pearl's counter, which you will never be able to deny anyway since they won't be in melee range for you to do that. What I'm trying to say is that it's hard to trigger the Q against these characters, which make life hard for Poloma. These are all also very sticky with great tools for catching up, so kiting is hard. Well, all in all, I would say Poloma is decent at best in solos. She lacks damage and reliable combos to be able to fight early. She needs so much loot to get going, and even when she does that, she doesn't really deal that much damage. She also has a very high skill cap in order to utilize her efficiently. But that said, she is amazing in duos. Her kit works really well there, and heal on the left mouse button is crazy good. But even if I don't think she's great at the moment, she's hella fun. I hope you found this guide useful and that you learned something new. If there was something important that I missed, or if you're interested in the Duo Poloma guide, let me know in the comments. The next guide will be for Destiny, so subscribe so you don't miss out. These guides do take some time, so thank you for your patience. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.